Good evening, Mayor. My name is Ted Noftel from Chickadee Drive. It would be my strong recommendation to you all that you at least explore the possibility of selling the course to the private sector. Governments need to realize they can no longer do the things they did before. It's just not working out. Your numbers in front of you tonight are not working out. There is no money for this kind of stuff going forward, or there's certainly going to be less of it going forward. If you are going to keep the course, the restaurant needs to be spun off from the golf operation. For the first 4 months of fiscal 12, this golf course had a loss of $20,544. For the first 4 months of last year, it had a loss of $50,404. For the first 4 months of this year, the year we're in now, just ended January, it has a loss of $97,000. Now that is an undeniable trend, and it can only be attributed really to two things. Either Kemper is a poor operator, or more likely, less people are playing golf. Now, we've heard some conversation on that point before at the golf board meetings. If that's the reality of it, that does not augur well going forward. It sure doesn't augur well for a new taxpayer investment out there. And then finally, Mayor, and I apologize for not being able to speak to this more articulately. I only picked up on it myself a short while ago. At the end of 12, at 9/30/12, it's being reported that the Water and Sewer Fund was owed $1.559 million. At the end of September 13, it's being reported that it's owed $1.573 million. So these numbers are telling me that after a year of payments, we now owe more to the Water and Sewer Fund than we did a year ago. I would like some confirmation of that. I'd like some confirmation of that right here, right now.
Difference, 55 to 57.
As we've explained, we've had to make an adjustment. It's more into the cash accounts, but that's as a result of it. It's booked one way at the end of 2012, but we make that adjustment. We're actually a little higher than that, so that's the adjustment we're talking about making.
So what it says to me is the debt has increased $24,000 after we paid $140,000. Because we did make payments last year, did we not?
We made some of the payments, but we've had to make some adjustments to deal with it. We'll show you those calculations so you'll see how the numbers flow.
All right. Now, is it fair to say that the numbers, the financials we have been presented were inaccurate?
As of the end of 2012?
No, sir. The numbers we've been getting all along now required an adjustment. So is it fair to say that the numbers we were getting all along were inaccurate?
I may have Wayne look at give you a response to that.
It's a little complicated on how the golf course was originally set up. The loan, as Greg had said, was from the Water Sewer Fund. The golf course fund itself that we have with the city, there's actually three cash accounts. There's two cash accounts that the city has, one operating cash account the golf course has. It's been prior practice over the years, as long as when you roll those three accounts up, as they are on our statements, as they are on the CAFR, as long as we were in a positive, that was fine. You might have one because of a transfer hadn't been made this month, wasn't made till next month. One account may be in a negative, one may have more than enough to cover it in the other one, but it just hasn't shifted. With that said, at the end of this last fiscal year, when we started looking at it, those three accounts combined actually went into a negative. The big reason was because this past year, if you remember the reports, there was a $68,000 loss last year, so that's a big portion of it. And when you take that and some of the losses that or transfers that were not made in previous years, that put us in that overall negative cash situation at the end of the year. So what we had to do in order to get us back into at least a even cash situation in the city's accounts, we had to reverse some of those payments that were made previously to the water and sewer fund, because that's where the debt has been going. And so that's why that number went up a little bit in the water and sewer fund, in order to, it was, like Greg said, it was a cash flow problem from last year and from a couple of previous years. Because what happens, the golf course transfers cash from their operating account into the city's golf course account, and then that payment from that is made to the water sewer fund. There were times in previous years that payment was made to the water and sewer fund, but the cash wasn't being transferred for 2 or 3 months at it sometimes from the golf course. So it finally caught up with the golf course this past year and went into that negative cash. And so we had to adjust the water and what's owed to the water and sewer fund in order to get the cash back where it needed to be.
Can I ask a question, because I'm thoroughly perplexed? Accounting for the cash flow for if we separate out the payments to the water sewer fund, the golf course during the years I've been on the board has always made more than broken even. Okay.
I can't speak for previous years.
Okay.
I can't.
If you add then their outstanding liability for their payment back of approximately $14,000 a month, whatever it was, I know for the bulk of the year they paid into it, but at the end of the year they didn't pay for like 3 or 4 months. How could the amount go up in the debt when they were paying some? They didn't pay it all. They may have paid 60, 70, 80,000.
What was happening in the practice, and don't ask me why this has been the practice, but what was happening, the payment or the transfer for the debt to the water and sewer fund from the city's golf course cash account was being made each month, even though we were not getting it for that month or that 2-month or that 3-month from the golf course. We were still paying.
And this goes over a couple of years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it was an accounting error that led to this situation?
It was not an accounting error. That was just the practice, that because they felt like that as long as the 3 cash accounts still had a positive balance, because at some time they would balance out. Because if the golf course had money in their operating account, the next month they may be able to transfer more, and that's what happened. I look back to like 11 or 12, and they transferred a lot more that year than what they really needed to, because they had got behind the previous year. So they made up for it back, I think that was 11, but then when you got into 12 and 13, it kept going downhill, and it finally caught up with them, as far as the overall cash. What should have happened probably is in prior years when the golf course could not transfer that payment at the end of the year for that month or 2, the city should not have paid the water sewer fund from the golf course fund, but they did. So
we were just catching up for several years then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's why you've got a difference in the number that shows as of the end of 2012 and what shows at the end of 2013. That's the adjustment you have to make to, and so that's why we're comfortable saying it's $1,573,000, not something less.
That's correct.
It's really fun being on council. You think you make decisions based on data, and then you get surprises. Yet another surprise. Okay. I'm used to them by now.
Can you remember my question after all that?
Yes.
What's the answer to it?
The answer wasn't good enough that they presented to you?
I didn't understand it. I asked if the information we've been fed to date contained inaccuracies. An adjustment is required now.
He said it wasn't inaccurate, it was just the methodology used, is what he said.
Ted, it was inaccurate for what we were interpreting,
Yes.
and I mean, any way you look at it, I was operating off the wrong understanding.
The important thing here, Mayor, is that we've heard testimony already tonight, and many of you have repeated it, that the golf course by and large is breaking even. I don't think there's any evidence of that at this point, Mayor. We need a complete analysis of the adjustment that they're talking about, which I think has been promised. Is that correct? Is that going to be forthcoming real soon, as in like tomorrow, maybe? Because you have it right now. You obviously have it. It's just a matter of sharing it, correct?
We're going to show you where this adjustment has to be made. So I'm not comfortable continuing that past practice. That's why when Wayne and I sat down and said we need to make the adjustments. So.
And then, Mayor, the other thing is this whole arrangement begs some greater understanding. There's something referred to as working capital in accounting, and it's simply the difference between your current assets and your current liabilities. This operation has a deficiency of $135,000. Now, no business can operate continually, long-term, with a working capital deficiency. It's just not possible. But yet the golf course does, which means there's a hidden hand, there's a hidden transaction here that is not evident, just like we're hearing testimony of here tonight, this adjustment, which, according to my calculations, if this went up 24 and we paid $140-odd thousand during the year, the adjustment must be somewhere around $150,000 or more. My simple numbers, but again, I'll wait till tomorrow.
He'll get more. All right.
So, Mayor, again, if we're going to stay with this, you need to spin off the restaurant and get us some greater numbers. The other thing is these estimates don't make any sense to me. Your soft costs are going to be exactly 50% of your hard cost. I've never seen any type expansion where you're going to carry $500,000 worth of costs that contribute nothing to the future operation versus $1 million going into the future operation in the way of improvements. Second thing is, as we just found with the pool deal, we need some serious estimates. You can't be basing anything on what's in front of you here tonight. $250,000 for a restaurant. As you say, you've renovated oodles of them. How many did you do for less than $250,000?
I've done several for $1 million. Having said that,